Good afternoon, YouTube. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoyed the sunshine that we had here in, San Diego, California, and in the Southland here in California. And I wanted to, I know it's been a little while since I've made a video, so I wanted to make another one. And I know I've made this point before, but when you get a listing, the most important thing you can do is price it right the first time. Because when you do that, your the chances of you selling the home are much, 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 much 80 to 90% higher than if you don't. Because if you don't price it right the first time around, more likely than not, your listing will probably sit on the market for quite a while and it probably isn't going to sell. And then you're going to have a phone conversation or a meeting with your client, um, saying that you want to have a price reduction, and that's never a call you want to have or make. Although I completely understand how in this current market, especially in this current real estate market, how that would certainly be. It's tough out there right now. It really is. I mean, interest rates are between 5 to 7%. I know the Fed's going to do a rate cut. I didn't actually think they were going to, but they are. They're doing a rate cut September. I don't know if that means a week from now or when in September they're going to do that, but they are going to lower the interest rate, which I think is going to help a little bit. But I digress. The most important thing you could have done, I mean, obviously the photos are important, obviously, because having super nice professionally done photos is super important, and always make sure that you get the strength of the property in the photo, like whatever is the if it's got a nice view, if it's got a outstanding living room, it's got a beautiful kitchen, or the bedrooms are super nice, or if it's just been completely remodeled and redone, or it's got a pool, or it's got a back, whatever the case may be, make sure that you get that in the photo. Make sure that the photos are professionally and nicely done, because that's everyone's first impression of that's everyone's first impression of the property. Everyone's, because everyone goes either onto their laptop, although in this day and age it's far more likely that the first thing that they're looking at it with is their phone, either on Google or Zillow or or any of the dozens of real estate sites out there. But anyway, the price, always, because the most important time you have on the market is not the first week, it's less than that, it's the first 72 hours, it's the first 3 days. Why? Because everyone's looking at the property for the first time with fresh eyes, and that's when it's prime time to pique someone's interest and get them over to the property, and make sure that your phone is being blowing up with text messages and phone calls and emails, and that you're getting agents and buyers to reach out to you and schedule a showing. And the longer that they are in the property, the more likely it is that they are going to make you an offer. And you know, at that point, if you have, 2 or 3 offers that you're working with, or ideally even more than that, 4 to 7, ideally. Doesn't always work that way, especially not in this market. It doesn't. The market has changed completely. We're now more of a buyer's market, as you probably well know. But um, if you have 4 to 7 offers that you're working with, you can leverage, you can negotiate, you can say, hey, you know what, we really appreciate your offer. Thank you for making me an offer. We do have other offers on the table, so we need your highest and best offer come this Monday, end of day, or first thing in the morning. That way, ideally speaking, the seller wins, your client wins, and then you look like a rock star to them, and that will lead to other things. But 99.9% of the time, this always comes down to the price. Always. And I know it's cheesy, it's corny to say that, but and I know in this market, most sellers don't want to hear that. They don't. I mean, we're dealing with a situation right now, my partner and myself, where the seller does not want to hear it. They don't. Why? Because emotionally attached to the property. That's why, because they invested in it. Most sellers have. Most of them have. I mean, unless they bought the property turnkey years ago and it was new construction when they got it, in which case, even however long ago that was, may not be true anymore. But um, and I know sellers don't want to hear that, but I think it's important to remind people, like, look, we are not here to sell you a pipe dream. We are not selling pie in the sky, or we're not here to tell you what we cannot deliver upon. That does not make it. That doesn't do anyone any good at all. To give someone, clients false hope about numbers that we can get them when we can't. Not in this market. I mean, the only time you can really get, um, an offer that's way beyond their expectations really is is the real estate market that we had just a couple of years ago. And of course, back then, 20, 2-3 years ago, interest rates were at 0.7%. To tell you guys the truth, I don't know that we're ever going to see 0.7% or 0.6, whatever, 0.6 or 7%, whatever it was, ever again in our lifetimes. I don't think so. Ever since the Fed stepped in and rose interest rates from 0.67% all the way to 5 to 7%. And I know that they're going to do a rate cut in September. I know that, but I don't think we're ever going to see that low of interest rate in our lifetime ever again. I really, really, really don't. I mean, don't hold me to it, because something, changes always happen, and the real estate market changes every couple of years. Something always happens, but at the same time, um, I don't have a crystal ball, neither do you. So, that's that. But anyway, circling back, the most important thing you do is price, 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 price. If you price it right the first time around, and when I say price it right, look at when you get a listing contract, or when you're, right about to have a seller sign a listing agreement with you. And congrats on that. Good on you for getting that done. Make sure that you've given them options. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're giving you options. You can list at the top of the market. You can do what the competition's doing, or you can list below the current market value of the market, which is, usually speaking, anywhere between 10 to 15% below the current market value. Reason why. Now, I know for some people out there that's a scary, scary, scary thought, and the sellers are going to immediately think that, well, absolutely not. I'll never be able to recover. Here's a little insight tip for you. The listing price, if it's done right the first time round, is 80 to 90% of the time never the sales price. The listing price is the invitation price. It's almost never the sales price of the home. Why? Because if you list below the current market value of the home, or you list at a competitive price, you will get traction on the market. You will have people competing to see the home. You'll have multiple showings, and the likelihood that you're going to sell that property is pretty high. Pretty high. If you price a property at the top of the market, or even today's market, if you do even just what the competition's doing, which is the middle point, not only is it going to sit there for a very, very long time, but the odds of you getting an offer in that they want and getting them more money than they know what to do with are very, very, very low. Very, 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 very low. So you always want to try to list below the current market value of the property. Go onto the MLS, look at run your comps, take a look at the past 30, 60, 90 days, Take a look at all the homes or condos that have sold in your neighborhood and the price point that they've sold at. And if you do this right, you will price it below where they listed their price. Price it below that, and I promise you, you will get traction on the market. You will get traction in the market. You will get interest in the market because buyers, at the end of the day, they all want a deal. They all are looking for a great deal. Nobody, no buyer in this market right now wants to overpay for a property. We're not in that market anymore. We're not. The market's completely changed. So the best thing that you can do is to price it, under the current market value of the property, 10 to 15% below the current market value. You picked your sweet spot, 10, 12, 13, 14, anywhere in there. And you will get traction on the market. My partner and I do this all the time. In fact, we have a prospect right now that we're working with, and they don't want to do that. I really hope that we're able to help them and get to the price that they want. I really hope that we can. But the market is the market. When the market changes, and you can't, please don't go around telling, just taking listings with people and just telling them what they want to hear. Because I can promise you the market doesn't support that. You got to give these people the truth, the reality. And I know it's hard to do. I know it's difficult to do. It's not easy to do by any stretch of any means at all. It just isn't. Because people don't want to hear that. But to take a listing and list it at the price they want when the market isn't there, we're just giving people false hope, and it's going to sit on the market for 90 days, and then you're going to have a pissed off client and you're going to get fired. I mean, that's what happens. So the best you can do is price it under the current market value of the home. Run your comps between 30, 60, 90 days, price it below where those comps initially listed their property, under that price point. That will get traction. That will get offers. Offers that ideally you can leverage, that you can get them to get the seller to pay attention to. Because you can't just bring the seller a bad offer. They won't take it. It's like you're wasting everyone's time, including your own. So it's always, always, always the price. And I will be harping on that until I no longer can, because it's the best thing that you can do is just price it right the first time. The first time around. So you don't have to do a price reduction, because nobody wants to hear that. Because if you're sitting on the market for longer than 60 to 90 days, I mean, even 30 days, really, you are telling the market that we can't get the offer that we want. So we have to lower our price. That's what we have to do. That's not a win-win for anyone, and we want to avoid doing that. So anyway, I will. And by the way, I'll do another whole video on this, but open houses. The best way to do an open house is, I heard some great advice a while ago, and it was, if you're going to do an open house, the way to do that is to come onto the market, and for the first 10 days, you have no showings and no open houses, and then after the 10-day mark, that Friday, that Saturday, that Sunday, you hold an open house after the first 10 days, that following weekend. And everyone that's been calling you, texting you, emailing you about open houses or, scheduling a showing, they're all going to show up there. And when all those interested buyers and buyers agents show up at the property and they see how many other people that they're competing with, it helps a lot. So use that little tidbit. It helps a lot. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful Monday and a great rest of your week.